streaming this one. I just changed my setup, so hopefully this is not going to be lagging this time. I'm just going to quickly share the stream so people on Twitter can also join in. And we're going to be getting back to writing the book, Building Mobile Apps at Scale. I'll just get the link. Here we go. So I'll just share this. And the book that we're writing is Building Mobile Apps at Scale. And we're going to be working on the monitoring and alerting. This is a chapter that I'm going to be struggling with. So, but before we go, I want to give you a short overview of what this book is. It's a free book thanks to sponsors who are sponsoring it, so you'll be able to access the book for free. You can just get this free book. There's also a full version where you get the Growing as a Mobile Engineer content if you're interested in getting that. All right. So let me show you how the setup is so far for the book, how I do my writing. I use Google Docs for writing. I find it works really well, and it's really good to get feedback. And the way I went about this book is I have a draft that I started writing. The whole book started from a blog post that was about 15,000 words, and it was too long to actually be able to use properly. Just going to quickly check on the stream. Yeah, that's going well. And so I wrote this book. I wrote this draft. And we can look at how many words we have so far. I remember it was something around like 28,000 words. So 70 pages. It's probably going to be longer once we format it a bit better. And there's all these different parts. I have 38 points. It's not even 33 things anymore. I'm not sure if it will be a 38. It might be shorter in the end of it. But I shared this with a bunch of people who were really kind to give feedback, and you can see the amount of comments that they gave here. It's going to load in a second. It's just a massive amount. So I've been working through this for the past about month and a half, and the book is almost ready. The draft, that is. You can just see. Okay, it can't even load all the comments. Right, there have been a lot. There has been a lot of input, and you can see the number of people contributing. It's around 25, and there's some more people coming in as well. Let me just see. I wonder where I can see any comments that are coming in, because that's what I'd like to do without hearing myself. I'll occasionally check over if there's any comments coming in so I can respond to them. That worked well last time as well. Okay, let's just go to the stream. Awesome. So I'll be able to see if anyone's adding comments. Otherwise, I'll just record it for the future. So this is my draft, and the way I work is I have this draft and I have my manuscript. So I'm wondering if BeLive can also see the comments here. I'm still figuring this out. Okay, there we go, finally working. So I'm just going to use BeLive. Awesome. Yeah, it is finally working. Miguel, got a setup, paid for, I don't know, like 30 euros or something to get it working. So, but that's not the important part. So I have my drafts and I have my master document, and I kind of use these two together. So this is the master document, which is now looking a lot nicer than it originally did, and it's a lot longer as well. If I refresh the table of contents, which I haven't done for a while, we'll get a lot more pages. Yeah, 94 pages. Whew. It's going to be a 100-page book. And I'm pretty happy with a lot of the parts are already. So just a quick one. The book will be free because of sponsors who I really like originally, and they're sponsoring the book. So I have enough money to write and to promote and to pay for editing, which editing will be a big part of this book. So this is just I kind of think of this as a draft of the first version and people giving input. This is going to be what I will consider my draft, so I should really name this to master draft. Once I have this, which I'm hoping to finish by this weekend because it's almost done, then this will go to review back to the people who have seen it, and I'll ask them, hey, is there anything else? And it's also going to go to editing, which is going to be copy editing people. I'll hire probably 2 editors to help me go through and make sure there's no typos, no weird grammatical things. There shouldn't be, but when you write this much, this is like 30,000 words, it's not even a huge book, you just have a lot of oversight. And the reason I'm doing all of this is because this book will also be in print. So it's going to be in paperback, and I really don't want any typos. I'm going to be publishing with Amazon KDP. It's also going to be on Kindle. So it's going to be on all these formats. It's the first time I'm going to be doing this. There are some people who've done it, so that's pretty cool. And now over to the part that I want to write. So I'm pretty happy. A lot of the part 1 is already published online, and when you go to the beta, you can get it as well. A part that I worked on a lot the past time is in-app purchases. I've gotten tons of feedback, like from 7 or 8 people. I knew nothing about in-app purchases, and I got a lot of input. And the thing that we're going to be working on today is monitoring and alerting. And the problem with this topic is I started to research some stuff. There's not as much content. So monitoring and alerting, for background, this is the draft that I wrote up. And really, so what I'm going to be writing about is monitoring and alerting at scale. And what this means is millions of users, and it might be millions of daily users as well, dozens of countries. That's where things get really, really difficult. And I've seen it firsthand at Uber. We built our custom monitoring and alerting solution because there was just nothing out there that we could use. And I'm not sure there still is. Maybe there is. And let's see if anyone has any comments on it. If I talk about having, so Miguel asks, different stage rollouts on different platforms. Well, so this is, I think, the CI/CD. Are you talking about like iOS and Android having different stage rollouts? Because there's typically iOS, Android, and web. And I do talk about this. I'm not sure if it's already published or if it will be. This is the CI/CD and the build stream, so continuous integration, continuous deployment. Hold on. This is weird. Okay, maybe I haven't moved this properly over. Okay, CI/CD and the build train. Yep. Here this is. So this CI/CD would be a build train. So you would typically roll out to first. And maybe I should talk about this. You're now giving me a pretty good idea. So it seems, first of all, this was not moved over. And I'm going to remove this. This is weird. What happened here? But yeah, this is book editing can be pretty. This is something left over. Sorry, I'm just confused. Okay, I remember. There was this part on Bitrise, who's a sponsor, who will be featured here. Okay. But to your point, the different rollouts. Okay, I'm gonna leave it to do here. I'll figure this out outside of the live stream. But you make a good point, Miguel, on the different rollouts, and I'm wondering why I should add that. Here we go. Stage rollout. So the build train. I think I'm going to be adding it here. So typical stage. And this is for larger apps, but for the rollout, and this is across iOS and Android, and you typically do it parallel. I wonder if I should have a graphic to illustrate this, but first I'll just write it up. So there's like the beta or dog food release. Then you have the stage rollout in production. And even before the beta, you have the dev or nightly build of the app. And to get this dev or nightly build, you might have tools. At Uber, we just had an app where you could just download it immediately. You can sometimes use TestFlight for it. This is a version of the app built by the CI/CD. And sometimes it's just done it lightly. And typically engineers would use it, or people, or internal company people, or members. You can see what it's like writing a book. You're like finding the words. Usually I would just do all this in my head. I figured I'll try to do it in a stream. So is this what you were? How often you consider a good release rate for an app used by 10 or 100,000 users per week? I mean, app release rates to me have always been weekly at Uber. If you have 10 to 100,000 users, you might do it less frequently. Yeah, and Android was free for the developer. Yeah. So on Android, you can do it at any time, but we actually just coupled iOS and Android together. But you do make a good point of, and these are the points. That are separate is a. So now I'm kind of wondering if, I don't want to have more chapters, but what we're really talking about is rollout, and that's a little bit different to the build train, but it is connected. So I'm just going to keep it here if it doesn't. There, I'm going to bold this. I'll do editing later. So this is just the writing phase. But typical rollout stages: dev nightly build. And when I'm not talking, I'm just writing. So I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to always talk, although I will try. So you can usually download this via an internal app. Typically, you don't use TestFlight for this. Yeah, through some binary. The beta on dog food release to most company employees. And we did this at Uber. I mean, this depends on how big your company is, but this worked really well. We got a lot of free credits, but we had to use the beta app to use them. And it's not just beta employees and beta testers. And this is really key, especially when you want to build stable apps. A large enough beta group can help catch regressions. Yeah, and then you have the general rollout. I'm going to leave it to do here. I'm sometimes leave to-dos. I'll want to do this. Now, whether you couple Androids all together or do them separately is anyone's choice. Will be, either can work. Let's see if you have any other thoughts, Miguel. Yeah, no other ones. Will be the choice of really the team. And at Uber, we kept these coupled for the sake of simplicity, to be honest, and to have. And the reason we did this is also it just had clarity. We had build cuts. Build cut was always on, I think it was Monday night after a while, every 2 weeks. And actually, so to your point, a release cadence. And let's add the release cadence as well. So there's the weekly one that we can talk about. So this is like large companies typically do this, and you do this because you have so many large mobile teams. I know biweekly, less frequent, ad hoc. These are typically smaller teams, apps. And bi-weekly, it depends on a team. So the problem with the weekly is there's a lot of overhead. And then there's the overhead we need to consider. I'm going to add to-dos here that I'm going to talk about later on this part. Super interested in the outcome of salaries in Europe analysis. Yeah, so this live stream will be YouTube, so I don't want to show the thing, but I've had a really large range of salaries, and the reason I'm not sharing it just yet, I'd like to do it next week, is because some of the salaries are really high. So there are a bunch of people who have reported like over 150K, over 200K salaries as senior engineers, sometimes not even principal. And a recruiter reached out to me, and I shared this with her, and she was kind of concerned that it's not showing the market and people are going to have like FOMO or like they'll be frustrated, which I don't think is the case really, because I have the company names for them, and these are the company names. I'll share it. It's US companies typically. So Uber, obviously, Databricks, GoDaddy, Elastic, GitHub. They're also big here. But I kind of wanted to get a bit of more realistic sense. There are some companies that are not going to be able to compete with these things, and they don't. Albert Heijn and Jumbo, their senior engineers will make, I think, like 50K max, something like that. And I wanted to give some context around it, so that's why I wrote the article on equity as well, because equity compensation are the only way to make more than 150K in the Netherlands, because that's what I started with. Is with equity, but I do want to publish, like I have a whole table with the data, and I want to publish that data. I'm cleaning that up, and I'm adding some points. So I think it might rock the market for a little bit. And you're interested in the Europe salaries, yeah. So I'm going to get there as well, but I want to start with the Netherlands because I'm local there. The Netherlands will be on the higher end of European salaries, but COVID is also speeding things up. So a bunch of the positions are not just Netherlands specific, and I'm going to get a lot more scrutiny, honestly, because I'm based in Amsterdam. Uber sold ATGs, or are they giving up on their self-driving car section? Well, I'm not at Uber anymore, but my understanding is yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know too much. I know as much as you do. I'm not sure if it's good to be at ATG right now or not. And Vasilis, you just asked about, what do you mean by book mobile apps? Hold on, did I name the stream incorrectly or something? So I'm writing this book on mobile at scale, and this live stream is about this book. And I'm going to be working on the chapter, which I'm now going to get to, or I was already at, monitoring and alerting. All right, and yeah, getting a lot of questions from his salary. That's so. As I mentioned, the salary survey for the Netherlands, I want to get it out next week, and I'll probably do the first one as a YouTube video because I want to give some context, like especially on the fact that it's not just about the money. Like money is important, and for a lot of people, it's super important. And if you're that person, awesome. For some people, it's a bit less important, and I also don't want to make people feel bad who might not be making as much, but they're actually really enjoying where they're working. And there's trade-offs. The companies that pay a bunch of money often are a lot more stressful. They can also fire you. Look at Uber. They had layoffs and it was not great. I was there. So there's a couple of concepts. All right, but back to writing this book. And yeah, you're welcome. What's this? So the problem I'm having, like there are some sections that were really easy to write because there's a lot of research that I can do. Experimentation was a really good example. So the way I went about this, I wrote about experimentation here. I got tons and tons of comments. I'm not going to be able to find those specific ones. And I wrote this a bit better. And I researched online and got a bunch of articles. And I kind of weaved a lot of the information in here. So what I've started to do with monitoring and alerting is I've gotten some feedback from people. And I've started to draft up what I like my second take on what I want to write about. And this is here. So Julian Hardy, early Google employee, he gave some feedback on diagnostics for mobile apps, real-time logs, which is also a good one. And I've got a bunch of feedback. Now, the problem is that it seems no one's really talked about monitoring and alerting at scale. And the reason I know this because typically the way I search is I search for whatever topic I have, and I do iOS engineering because I find engineering blogs like this. So in this case, let's do monitoring. And I get performance monitoring, which I have covered beforehand. That chapter is complete mobile performance. It's a really good chapter from app startup, networking calls, performance, profiling, etc. And actually, I'm starting to realize that this monitoring is performance monitoring and monitoring are really related. So I'm going to move this chapter a bit closer because I feel monitoring and alerting might be the reason I might not have too much information on this is because of this one. So I'm going to move it, and this is me editing in live, and we'll do it after feature flags. So number 29 will be mobile performance monitoring, and there's a lot of great stuff there. So at Uber, we built this internal kind of tool where we sampled mobile application data, and we visualized what the average P95 or P99 was for mobile performance. This is going to be number 29 now, and we'll have monitoring. And this topic is really about business monitoring, and no one really writes about this. I'll have to do that. So, and it's all performance monitoring. I'm going to take performance out. Background network monitoring. Oh, that's forum. Changes app for engineers, mobile apps. Monitoring and diagnosis. So I have a feeling this chapter might just be most of my thoughts, unless anyone has. Ricky, is it hard to write a book as a software engineer? It feels like an unproductive thing to do. Well, it depends. I've been writing for a while, but I find it hard to get myself down and focus because typically, I think that there's a part where you draft. There's also where you research. I'm right now researching, and I can't find too much stuff. So it looks like I'm writing about something novel, which is weird because monitoring is a big deal. I know every single company does this, although everyone's trying to find out on their own. And yeah, so the more you write, the better it is. But honestly, you get a lot of because not many engineers write, at least blog publicly, or even try to write a small book. If you do it, you're going to stand out. So that's something to consider. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Alerting is an awaitable topic for me. Do you mean that you're waiting on this topic? I'll also talk about it. And Miguel, consider having a shared architecture between Android and iOS a good or a bad idea? I consider having it a great idea, and I'm going to talk about that on 35 cross. Well, I think I already have a shared architecture part. Oh, here we go. Shared architecture across several apps, so you can pause the live stream and take a look at these things. Ribs is a way that we've done it. If you do the languages, you also can do cross-platform solutions, which have drawbacks. But like a lot of the answers here will be, it depends on the size of your team, the app, what kind of engineers you have. There's no one solution that works like flawlessly, unfortunately. All right, so let's get back to what we have. So monitoring, I don't think I'm going to find much online. So that that kind of sucks, but that's where we are. Behavior Droid, monitoring Android applications from 2016. What is this? A framework for monitoring general app properties. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, let's go to alerting. And I have a feeling there's a lot of backend alerting solutions, PagerDuty, etc. And what I'm kind of hoping is to find some sort of engineering blogs where someone wrote about this. Effective alerting in practice, new but this is going to be backend. Mobile alert push system, that's going to be push notifications. So that's what I talked about. That this is one of the, oh, here we go. Here's my own article about this book that is on the top page, which tells you how few people have written about this. So let's see. Yeah, this is DevOps. Sensitivity, fatigue, maintenance. Okay, I'm going to have to write about this, and it seems I'm going to write in the first kind of proper thing, unless I'm going to look at page 2 as well. Mobile alerting management. It's a solution to make electrical engineering. Oh, please. Okay, no one has written about this, seriously. Like, it's, okay, Bugsnag. They're actually a sponsor of the book as well, so they're here. Wow. Now this is the type of thing where I like. Usually there's two types of books that you can write. One is you kind of talk about your own experience, and I'm writing a second book, by the way, about growing as a mobile engineer. This is the type of book where I'll be like, oh, here's my advice on how you can grow from junior to senior, and here's all the stuff that you can do. And in this case, you just kind of like blankly write. You don't do research. But this book, it's about what is the state of the art in the industry, and typically you do it by research, and I cannot do online research, so I might have to reach out to some other people who have done it. Luckily, I've done monitoring and alerting, so I'll do the basis here, but it's just going to be my raw thoughts. And this chapter is going to be a lot less research than I'd like it to be, unfortunately. So we'll have a couple of, like, I'll be left with whatever kind of, like, I'll look through these docs that people have sent me. It seems Halo Doc is the one company that have written about it, the non-functional requirements as well. And I'm just get my thoughts around it and put it out there. Yep. Is a draft link can be shared in public? I'm not going to share the draft link in public, but if you want to just direct message me on Twitter, my DMs are open. I can share it with you, and you can give feedback on it. So, and I can share this draft here, the one I have. All right, so I'm gonna do a little bit of writing, but I'll probably finish the stream before I write the whole thing. But just to give a sense on how the actual writing process works for a topic that there isn't too much research on there. So I'll probably like typically there's an intro, there's topics, and there's a summary. I'll start with the intro. And I already have something here. Remote diagnostics and real-time logs. So I'll typically start with what I have. And what is true, like what we've seen, there is just not much resource, because I don't think many people take mobile monitoring seriously. I know at Uber we didn't take it seriously for a long time, and so I'll probably like want to highlight this, so like a key topic that I have, that monitoring and alerting on the mobile side is often a distant second thought early in the app development lifecycle. Now, I'll probably have some sort of an introduction, but I'll want this to stand out for later as I build up the content. And then the topics that I'll have, I have a bunch of different topics here, but what I'll want to do is basic signals to alert for, and I'll have a couple of those. Sophisticated health signals. And I wish I had examples. This is where having public examples would have been helpful, but I'm not going to have that. And we'll also have business events. Business events, I think, will be a lot more important, because this is what the whole monitoring is about. We had performance monitoring that is already covered there. And the business events, which is like business events and flows, determine if the application is healthy from, it's something that's key to gather. Right? Yeah, all right, so I think that's the comments we have. I'm just not thinking of what else to add here. So we're going to cover, this is going to be monitoring. Like this will be a heading 2. And then we'll have alerting, which will be the tricky part. And I wish there was more details. I'll probably have to refer to some non-mobile parts. So I'll have alerting and diagnostics. I'm going to skip that part. Cool. All right, well, I think I'm going, because I expected there will be more research that I can do. I'm probably going to finish the live stream at this point. So I hope this gave a sense of what writing is like. So I'm going to now go back and actually just, talk to myself as I write these things out. If you're interested, I'm going to pop this into the draft. Just on Twitter, my Twitter is Gerge Oros, so you can see it here. You can send me a direct message if you're interested in looking at the draft, and you can see what this comes out to. I'm just going to write it up. So I now have a sense of what I'm going to be writing about. It's not going to be too much research. I'll aim to have probably 1 or 1.5 pages, which seems reasonable. And once I publish it, this will probably be pretty top on Google, because, and I'll probably have a separate article on this one, because this is just non-existent. No one has written about this, which is crazy. And yeah, you can already see, on page 2, this is the book that is there. So the problem with this approach is what I write might not apply everywhere, but my experience on what I saw at Uber will probably be like a good enough start, because there's just literally nothing out there. So I hope you enjoyed seeing on how. Yeah, thanks, Ricky. I hope you enjoyed. Like, this is just the behind the scenes of actually writing a book. It's, on one end, it's a lot more difficult than you think, but on the other end, it's kind of fun, and you learn so much. So one thing, and I'll close with that. I've learned, for example, so much when I did the experimentation part, because I read all of these articles that most people have probably not gathered. How does DoorDash do their experimentation platform? How do Airbnb do? How does Netflix do? So that was a really rewarding topic, and you can see like some of the kind of things that I gathered, some of the thoughts, and you just learn tons of stuff. And I it's also a great way to like pass this on to people. So there you go. And you don't have to start with a book. Don't start with a book, please. Don't do what I do. Start with blogs, and you can get a sense of like my blog. Uh, some people are intimidated by like, oh, how like long the articles are. But if you go back, there's a whole list of everything I wrote, and you can see some of the early articles. Like I wrote one about just getting into the zone with Pomodoro, which is a pretty short one. But you can get a sense of like where I started from, and this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, you can see the date here. So you can kind of see a progression of like my writing, because like writing, honestly, it's one of the really interesting things you can do. You get so much new ideas, and in software engineering, you'd be surprised on how many things just no one has written about it, and maybe a lot of people have thought about it, but if no one's writing about it, you're never going to know. This is a perfect example, monitoring and alerting. I know so many people who have worked on this, have thought about it, but no one's written about it. I cannot find anything online. And now we have a YouTube stream on this. I should rename the YouTube stream. All right. Well, thanks everyone who joined, and see you later.